This is Jack Moelmann, and once again we have an inspiring young gentleman with us. We're going to see what he does as far as theater organ is concerned. Today is the 8th of August 2016. We're in the dining room of my house, which is in O'Fallon, Illinois, near St. Louis. And with us is Danny Brooke, who hails from Austin, Texas, but he's currently working, doing some work in St. Louis. His real profession is as a systems engineer with healthcare computer programs, and in addition to that, he's got a hobby, maybe even more than a hobby, in music. Well, anyway, Danny, welcome to the whatever this ends up being. When and where and how did you first get started in music? We won't deal with your college background and your other job, but how did you get started in music?
As far as theater organ is concerned,
yeah.
Interesting. I took in 7th grade, we had an excellent teacher who was a very inspiring teacher. He was also a theater organist from Erie, Pennsylvania. And we took a music appreciation class, and it introduced us to all styles of music, including jazz, classical, opera, symphonic. And he also played the Reginald Dixon album, a few selections from it, from Organ Memories, a Reader's Digest collection of Reginald Dixon on the Blackpool Wurlitzer. And several of my friends, we heard that, and all the glockenspiels and xylophone and cymbals and marimbas and on there, and I immediately was hooked. I couldn't believe one person can make all this sound.
So what happened after that?
It was a private school. I went up to the teacher and asked him, I says, where is this and where can I buy this? And I wrote down the information, and I wrote to Reader's Digest, and it was a long process back then. I'm dating myself. I had to write to Reader's Digest, inquire about it. They sent me an order form for all their albums. I found the Organ Memories. It was a 4 LP set, and then I had to send in a check. My parents, obviously, at the time, wrote a check, and we mailed it in. And it took like 2 months. It seemed like 2 months for it to come in.
Well, how'd you get this playing the thing? How'd you get going with that? Did you start on the piano, or?
I started on the piano, and I really wanted to play the organ. I was inspired. The church we went to, being able to play there. Again, the gentleman I'm referring to, my school teacher, was also an organist, also played at the church. I was a parochial school, so we went to church quite often. He also played there, and sometimes would jazz up some of the hymns. I knew that's what I really aspired to do.
So you were really starting on the church organ. Classical music?
And not classical piano at first, just so I could learn. And then my parents broke down and bought me a home organ.
Okay. And when did we get going into when's the first time you played the theater pipe organ?
That's a very good question. The first time I played a true theater pipe organ had to have been Scampy's Organ Palace in Austin, Texas. I actually grew up in San Antonio, and there was no theater organs there, at least that were working. There was a Pizza and Pipes type restaurant in Austin, Texas called Scampy's Organ Palace. And at that time, in the 70s, I belonged to a group called the Young Organ Association, YOA, if you remember Bill Worrell.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of his creations he did. And I was quite young at the time, but so several of us all went up there for a Sunday. We made arrangements for all of us to go up on a Sunday for about a couple hours before the restaurant opened to play the organ there.
Well, you started, when did you join ATOS? Or was it ATOE back then? That's American Theater Organ Society, by the way.
Interesting. I knew nothing about ATOS. I loved the theater organ, and I was kind of all by myself on that. I would buy LPs when I would find them. My dad was in military, and we went to the BX a lot, and the Post Exchange, Base Exchange, and I would look through all the albums. I picked up a Lee Irwin album. I picked up a Virgil Fox album. Didn't see any George Wright albums there, but definitely would have bought those had I known if I seen those. I bought what I could from our limited exposure. My mom especially loved shopping on base because there was no tax on anything we bought there.
Well, you look at this as a hobby or a business, or
As a hobby, a hobby for me.
have you played anywhere professionally, so to speak? Where you got paid even, or just
Yes,
a public concert of some sort?
For theater organ, I played. I have to back up. Let me back up. When I joined A2S, I joined A2S in 1993. I discovered a magazine. You know, interesting. I discovered a magazine at Holcomb Linquist, which was an Allen dealer in Houston, Texas. I happened to be in there. I wanted to go by and see the organs that were there. They were an Allen dealer, and I discovered the magazine, and I was kind of astonished that there was a magazine for a theater organ. I had no clue. And similar to the Reader's Digest story, I copied down they wouldn't let me buy the magazine. It belonged to somebody. It was on display there. So I copied the address and wrote to them, said, I'd like to join. How do I get this magazine?
Well, do you know anything mechanically about it? Or are you just a player, or do you get in
Yes, I
there
do
and tinker
understand.
with it?
I understand the mechanical parts of it. Yes, and that my knowledge came in 1994 when I got married and we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and discovered the Atlanta chapter, which was a very thriving chapter of 100 plus members. And few of the members had pipe organs in their homes, so I learned the mechanics of that by becoming involved with that chapter.
Okay, what's the best experience you ever had playing sort of publicly on the theater organ? What's the most exciting program you ever put together?
That would have to be the second concert I gave for the Alabama chapter. ATOS.
Where was that?
That was in Birmingham. It's only I lived in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for 16
But I mean,
years.
where'd you do the program?
At the Alabama Theater.
Theater?
Alabama Theater on the 422 Wurlitzer there.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because it was almost a rite of passage. After becoming involved with the Atlanta chapter, I was elected president. And it seems like a rite of passage that if you become president of the Atlanta chapter, you'll be contacted by the Alabama chapter to come do a program for them. And sure enough, that was in step.
Well, turnabout's fair play. What was the worst experience you've ever had?
Ironically, the worst experience was I did a program for the Atlanta chapter. Myself and Rick McGee, another excellent organist of the Atlanta chapter, but we were asked to do a program at the Allen Organ Studios there. They had a theater organ and a classical organ, and we were going to present a program for that. And somehow we didn't get arranged properly, but there was no practice time. So I had to go in and do the program cold with no practice whatsoever. And I definitely did not play my best there. I was very nervous.
You did okay.
According to the nice people in the audience, it was very well received, but I was not happy with what I did.
Okay, looking ahead, where would you like to play? What's the ultimate ambition of a place in theater organ again that you would like to perform one way or another? Not just, well, even play privately on it or do a public thing. What is the ultimate instrument for you?
Would the question be fair? Can it be someplace I've played before?
I suppose. It should really be someplace that you'd like to go that you haven't been. Maybe somebody will watch this thing and invite you.
It's a very good question. I don't think I have an answer for that right now. Where I would want to an instrument. That would be easy. That would be, of course, I call not the granddaddy of them all, but it would probably be Century 2, Wichita Wurlitzer.
Okay.
That would be an easy answer because I have a couple recordings of that, mainly the Virgil Fox Entertainer album, and I wore the grooves all on that organ. And that's one of the Wurlitzers I think that people can listen to and hear that instrument and know exactly, oh, that's the Wichita.
You better hurry up. That ain't going to be there much longer if it's even there now. I don't know.
Well, that was an answer. That was a question to your answer.
Okay, we don't know who potentially are watching these YouTube videos. But sort of closing this down, what would be your advice to people, young people, older people, to get involved in this thing? What would you tell them to inspire them to check it out, or what would you tell them that it just happened on this video and they don't even know what they're watching?
I would relate to what I mentioned earlier at the very beginning, in that you're able to control like a cockpit of a fighter pilot. You have all these switches, and you can make the plane fast, slow, dip, dive, climb, race past another fighter. Theater organ allows you to have command from something very soft, to make music soft, loud, crescendo up. And with theater organ, you have percussions, and a lot of the organs have a 32-foot bass pedal that you play it, it will rattle the walls, and you're in control of this mighty instrument. And to have this much power that's all mechanical, powered by air, is just a wonderful thrill to be able to do.
Well, good. We thank you, Danny, for stopping by, so to speak, for dinner.
Thanks,
And
Jack.
so we're going to bring this to a close. So Danny Brooks, all the way from Austin, Texas, but he's here in St. Louis doing some work, and we're here. This is Jack Moelmann here in my home in O'Fallon, Illinois, near St. Louis, the 8th of August, 2016. And Danny, we wish you well in your future endeavors, both in your business plus the organ world.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me.